I advise, I consult, I crack the whip, I might scream and yell, no, you can't do this, yes, you can do that. When I do it, it's because I do it because I want to protect you. Who thinks that your responsibility ends at close of escrow? Never. I'm an agent too, so I get where you're coming from. Most people will come from the point, let's just get through this escrow and I'll be safe. When do 90% of the lawsuits happen? After close of escrow. Not before, not during. So I've got about 15 nice little tips that I want to keep you in mind. And then, so there's two handouts. We discussed this handout a couple weeks ago about your opening documents, but I want to review it again. You just got the list. This is what we need. But you didn't get the why you need it and why it's important. So let's just go with the buy side. The single page, it's labeled transaction initial file documents. Who gets emails from Mark Miller occasionally when they open up a transaction, besides Bridget? Bridget, I need to see you in my office after. I love giving Bridget a bad time. Last week I went and saw her assistant. I said, I need to see Bridget when she gets back. And she was scared to death. I just wanted to spend time with her. That's all. Okay, so let's look at this. First item on the list is agency disclosure, right? The AD form. When does that need to be presented and signed? At consultation at your very first meeting. Not after you've gone out and shown them 5 or 6 houses and you've sat down to write the residential purchase agreement. You need to disclose what agency is up front and explain, in the state of California, I'm required to disclose to you what agency is. And there's a whole nother script behind that, but if you come to my contract class, you'll get the whole script. And it'll make it really easy. Next document, your buyer representation exclusive. Why do you want this as an agent if you're representing the buyer?
Commitment.
What's that?
Commitment.
Commitment. Why else? To make sure you get paid. And the VRE protects the client as much as it protects you. Did you know that without the VRE, you're fiduciary you're a sub-agent for the seller? And if you find out any material fact about the property that could affect the sale of the home, you're not required to disclose. So wouldn't that be prudent for a buyer to want to sign that? Because if you find out something that could affect the property as a material fact, that they would want to know. That's what the VRE does for them. So who's now afraid to present the VRE to all the buyers they sit down with? I mean, it's like skydiving without a parachute. Who wants to do that? Because I got an airplane. We can go out next week. You guys take your pick. You won't know what's in, if there's a parachute in the bag or not a parachute. Who wants to do that? Okay, Maria's on. And then the purchase agreement, we'll skip through that. The buyer's pre-approval and proof of funds. This is an opening document. 99% of you are not putting that in the initial documents because Mark just cuts and pastes everybody that misses what they don't upload when they first open a transaction. Bridget.
Quick question on the VRE. What do you do if you have a client sign a VRE, but then they end up wanting to buy one of your listings and you want to do a buyer non-agency?
Good question. That's one of our rules that we've set forth. If you have a VRE and it's one of your listings, you're now allowed to do dual agency.
If you have the VRE.
So you don't need the VNA. Oh, there's something new every day. You didn't ask. I can't ask a question if I'm not asked. If you guys come to my contracts class, you would have learned it. Learn something new every day. That's why we want you coming to risk management meetings. Why do you want to have a buyer's loan pre-approval as an opening document with the buyer initialing?
Because you need to know if they can buy the property.
True. Why else?
They know the obligations up front.
They know their obligations up front. They can come back to you later and say, you didn't tell me my payment was going to be this high. And now my payment's up here? No. I want to sue you. Good answer, Linda. That's why you need it. It's a disclosure for the buyer so they understand what they're getting into. Who's ever had a buyer that freaked out when they saw the payment? Yeah, had a few of those last week. The comparative market analysis. This never gets submitted. Now the buyer needs to know from a CMA what they're making an offer on. Why would this be important for the buyer to know up front? And why would it be important for you to have them look at it, initial it, and sign it?
I mean, I can answer that. At least in Washington State, what it is you want to be able to inform the buyer where the value is, and if they're choosing to go above full price, that is their choice, and it also protects you from being sued after the fact.
Yes. Let's say, perfect answer. You represent the buyer, you don't have them sign a CMA, they move into that, let's say it's a condo, they're all happy, and they paid $320 for it, and they find out the one next door to them, a month later, sells for $300, identical unit. They now have a reason to come after you by saying, you never told me that the value of this home should have been $300 when I'm paying $320. I overpaid. Now they have a case against you. Mr. Garrity.
So, in this multiple artificial value situation, do you have, when people are pushing up, when there's the comps right there, there's something, somehow magically appraised, but just assume the comps are
A little louder.
Are you going to have people, do you have them sign against advice of broker? They're going into a high? Or?
I would be covering my ass in every direction in this artificially inflated market. Yeah, because we are, all the signs are there
I agree.
that we are going to probably shift, even though nobody wants to admit it. So it's a good thing though, because we need to have a little shift.
Yeah.
And there's lots of opportunity in a shift. But in that example that you just mentioned, Brian, thank you. In this artificially inflated market, and especially if they're paying all cash, you know, you want to protect yourself by saying, here's my CMA on the property. It's at $850, but we want to pay $900. Great, I need you to sign this little CMA. Just so you know that I've done my due diligence to help you make an informed decision. That's my fiduciary responsibility.
But just one step content, so should we have additional verbiage on the CMA that says you understand that this is where it really should be, you are choosing to.
I would go that extra step, yeah.
But no, from being alone, no idea.
Yeah. You can also follow up with an email. Per our conversation we had when we submitted the offer, I wanted to advise you that the CMA we had was $850,000. However, you agreed by your own whatever decision to pay for $900,000.
Just one thing that I've done too is that when some buyers push back on that a little bit, or there's a question if they're going to be paying over the price, what I always share with them is that right now, if you may be seeing this too, that the interest rates will be going up. So maybe they want to pay a little bit more now for the price. They could go away, continue to look. The market does slide down and does make a shift, which it will. The interest rate may be just as high or higher. They'd be making the same payment per month.
Yeah, I'd be very careful about saying we know the rates will go up.
Well,
And we know where the market will be. Because I quit my crystal ball years ago. Because I quit it. Because I realized I don't know what the market's going to do. And nobody has the crystal ball and we can't tell. What you just need to do is mitigate your risk by not, on the next sheet of paper, by not being the fortune teller for them. Let them know, here's where, I don't make the market, I interpret it. And so I'm interpreting it this way, and I'll let you make your decision. They don't want to feel forced into a situation. Okay? The ABA, of course, that's a legal disclosure that we have to have because we have the affiliates with Movement and A+ Escrow. So please, you need to disclose that up front. And the reason why you need that disclosure is because they need to know that we have an affiliate relationship with them up front, because that could determine who their service providers are being selected. So you need to disclose that up front at the beginning, not in the middle, not at the end. because their choice in service providers is important to them. And then, of course, then the wire fraud advisory, that's big right now. We've talked about that. Making sure that you do not give any type of wire fraud or wire transfer information to the client. You leave that in the hands of the escrow company. If they ask you to forward anything, NO. And then the second step is you need to do secondary verification on your email too. Because the Russians are out and they're tracking your email. Seriously, that's where it's coming from. And what's happening too, I know how you guys like to boast on Facebook, escrow open, escrow closed, got new buyers here. They're trolling you for that information. And they're waiting for you to post stuff like that. And then what they do is they pull a 2016 election scam and back into your email, and they just wait for you to do something that they can now hack and then slide their name into the wire fraud transfer. Okay? And then finally, this is a good one. We could spend all day on this, but it's the Avid. When do a majority do your ABID?
Home inspection.
During the home inspection? Sometimes before the end of the contract? Right before close of escrow? Why do you need the Avid at the beginning of the transaction? It's a disclosure to the buyer.
Condition of the property at that time, at the point of escrow.
Yeah, it's a disclosure to the buyer that could affect their decision to purchase the home. And all disclosures need to be delivered by when? Within,
7 days.
what was it?
7.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. 7 days. That's going to the buyer and or seller that could affect the sale of that home. And it's your visual inspection.
How is
You're
that
not
Avid
opening
gonna
doors, you're not
affect the
turning on
sale?
lights, you're not turning on the dishwasher.
How's that Avid gonna affect the sale?
It's a disclosure from your eyes, what you see potentially could be material fact of the property.
Okay.
And you need to put that up front so that the buyer could make their decision about whether or not they want to pursue. Example. Years ago, there was a case where the agent did a really bad job on an Avid. And right outside the door, there was water that was pooling on the concrete slab. Buyer closes escrow, moves into the property, finds out that the water pooling came from a massive leak inside. Then the whole thing had to be mold remediated.
Isn't that what a home inspection for?
Could have
I mean,
been
seriously,
uncovered,
there-
it wasn't. Doesn't matter. I don't care what's uncovered in the home inspection.
I wouldn't
You need to cover your ass though, by saying, I saw water pooling out there, and then there's the case that could be made that I did disclose this. But if you don't disclose it from the Avid until the end of the transaction, and that's when they look at it, then there's a potential for a lawsuit because you didn't do your diligence and paperwork up front. I recently went through mediation last week with some agents, and these agents did everything right. I'm so proud of them. They did everything, and they had documents, and they had email trails. And we did prevail, but not to the extent that we wanted to. In effect, I thought we won. However, the case and the other side came up with stories that were fabricated and made it difficult for our case to see the results that we wanted. And so we had to make the decision, do we move forward and litigate this out in civil court or small claims court, or do we agree to come to terms on just this? You don't know what the other side's going to do. You have no control over that. But if there's any inkling of a doubt that there's something in your file they didn't do right, that opens up interpretation to a judge and a jury. Gary.
Okay, I do an Avid when I walk through a property the first time with my clients, but it's usually really poor because I'm walking with kids, I'm looking around, and so I could miss a bunch of stuff where usually I used to do it when I do the inspection, which is within 2 or 3 days of getting a signed deal. And that's the one I do when I look everywhere. So you just said they did a really poor job. If I do the avid the way it sounds like I should, when I first see the property with it.
No, not when you first see it. It's after contract consummation. Get over there and you have a fully executed contract, then get into the home prior to get the disclosure within 7 days.
You're saying the app.
Yeah, the avid. Agent, vigil, inspection, disclosure.
It says before.
Yeah, Mark Johnson. When
Well, Mark-
you
Yeah.
It says
Yeah.
before.
when you showed him.
Yes.
Well, I know how real life works. So get over there before the 7th day. Brian.
You know, and getting your hat on, like the other agents that don't send you their avens, and then they're just dragging.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Then you hit your contingency period, and you're just like, sorry, we got 5 more days. Take it down.
I had dinner with an agent last week from another brokerage who used to be at this office, and she says, they never turn them in on time. I never do it. And I explained, here's why you need to.
Yeah, that's
But I know it's rampant in the industry.
Yeah.
I don't care what everybody else does. I'm just doing to mitigate risk for you guys. And if you ever end up in court, you want to have your SHIT in order.